Hey everyone, welcome to this new video all about the transit of Saturn into the sign of Aries, which begins this month of May. I'm recording this mid-May 2025, so the transit begins on May 26, 2025, and goes through to the 14th of April 2028. So Saturn usually spends roughly 2.5 years or so in a sign. This year, like I said, in May it goes into Aries, but it will retrograde back into the latter degrees of Pisces. So if you are someone that has late degrees Pisces, you will get the Saturn in your sign again. But briefly, that happens. I'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to mention a few things before I actually get into the details of this video. Uh, my name's Susan. If you don't know me, I'm a psychic medium and an astrologer, Western tropical astrologer. If you'd like to book a reading, the link is below. It's also on the screen, readingswithsusan.net. You can also join me on Patreon, which I love Patreon. Please join me there if you want more video content from me. I do upload more frequently on Patreon. So I do about 4 videos a month, roughly, which is much more than I do here on YouTube. And it's my cozy corner of the internet where people that follow my work and have followed my work for many years since I've been on YouTube, which is 2012. It's been a long time, but I have never been a consistent uploader of videos because I've been a practicing astrologer and psychic medium, and that has been my focus of doing one-on-one readings with clients. And if you don't know, also I do mention that I've got over 25 years experience in studying astrology, and that's not to brag in any way. That is just so you know that I do have a lot of experience reading charts, transits, progressions, and really understanding it in a very in-depth way. And like I said, practicing since 2012. So if you'd like to book with me, you do get a very in-depth reading and a very holistic understanding of what is going on for you based on your personal astrology chart. Also, the extended video to this, where I go through all signs, will be on my Patreon, so you can check that out. To join, to access that, it's only $6.99 Australian per month, or you can unlock a video and pay about the same just to unlock one video, but it's worth joining because you get access to everything that I post then, rather than just the one video. All right, let's get into the details for this. So, Saturn in Aries, well, we have Saturn in a fall sign to start with, so meaning that it is not in its most comfortable placement in Aries. Why is that? If you look at the energies involved, Saturn is about the slow development of situations, energy, the unfoldment of a new foundation that is very slow, and Aries is a very impatient fire sign. So, and Aries being a cardinal sign, it seeks to initiate new things, and it seeks to initiate those things for as quickly as possible. So with Saturn in Aries, it can be a bit of a frustrating energy because of these conflicting energies involved here. So, but everything is as it's meant to be, in the higher energies of the cosmos. So it is coming into Aries to create a brand new cycle, Aries being the first sign of the zodiac. And Saturn is so many things. Father Time, it is um, the Lord of Karma, it is the energy of perseverance and determination. So we really, with this energy, are looking at collectively some changes that could be coming from things like leadership or people in power that are seeking to create something new in a collective sense. And there may be some conflict or conflicting energy around this because Aries is the god of war. So, it can stir up some tensions in the collective while Saturn is in Aries, globally and things like that, as the energy of leadership tries to initiate in that cardinal Aries way some kind of new beginning, a new cycle that can be feel disruptive or very testing or challenging. There's so many factors to this of how, things can play out, but I've got some keywords on the next slide and I'll get to that in a second. But I just wanted to say, this transit is, if you're an Aries, this is a very important transit for you personally. And I will talk about some other signs as well, like what signs are most challenged in the coming slides. So stick around for that. Which signs I'll also talk about are benefiting from Saturn in Aries, or have a bit, less challenges around that. But again, it really is going to depend on your personal chart. This is a very general reading that gives you general information of what to expect and the dates and so forth. I'll talk about the Saturn Neptune conjunction as well, and when that's pretty much exact. Um, yeah, so, and as I said, the extended for all signs based on your rising or sun sign will be on my Patreon link below. Okay, so let's just skip to, excuse me, the next sign. Sorry, not the next sign, the next slide. Right. So these are some keywords. As you can see, we have Saturn here on the left with some keywords and Aries, and we're putting these energies together just so for the purposes of learning, what to expect. So Saturn is, like I said, Lord of Karma, Father Time. It slows things down. It really focuses on this feeling or this experience of limitation and responsibility. Saturn does work well if you are patient. It can work well for you if you're persevering. If you give up easily on things, or if you get frustrated easily, or if you're a very impatient person, or, if you need to learn maturity on an emotional level about, being more patient or not reacting so quickly out of frustration and anger when things don't happen instantly, this is going to be a big test for you. And, specifically for Aries people, because Aries people tend to be those things that I just described, tend to be a bit more on the impatient side of things. They tend to be, generally speaking, depends. You might have other things in your chart which help you be more grounded, like some earth signs or Capricorn, Taurus energy that can help you be more stable. But if you've got a lot of fire in your chart and you've got Aries in your chart, this can be difficult for you because you have a tendency to want quick results. If this is your Saturn return, say you've got Saturn in Aries, or you've got Saturn in a very sensitive placement, like on your rising sign, your moon sign, your sun, this is going to be quite life-changing for you. So very strong energy for Aries people. It is a big turning point. Saturn and Aries together can cut things out. I've just mentioned this down here as well, cutting out what is no longer on the right-hand side here. I don't know if the cursor is flashing up on the screen, but I'm circling it as I speak. Cutting out what is no longer working in your life. And if you personally don't cut it out, as in, if you yourself don't decide, what, I've been unhappy in this situation for a long time. I feel like I'm not living my life authentically. I've been suppressing, my true self. Saturn in Aries is going to come along and really force a change in your life where you can no longer tolerate what you've tolerated before. You can no longer be involved with people or situations that are causing you to continually suffer. So, or continually feel like you're just not able to be yourself or your authentic self. So, this is what can come up for Aries people in general, but with Saturn in Aries, themes around limitation and building something from scratch, building something new from the very beginning can be a theme just in the collective in general, but also for Aries people. And just in general, it can be anything where, depending on where transiting Saturn in Aries is in your chart, what house it's in, the aspects that it makes. There's a lot of factors to how this can affect you personally, but there can be a new path that is going to require your perseverance, responsibility, focus, and possibly for some people going out on a limb or out on your own in some way, or sort of going out in a new direction that separates you from what your past was in some way. Okay. So some people, if you've got strong Aries, if you're, say, a bit younger, you may separate yourself from parental figures in your life to start a new direction in your life, and you feel like you need to test yourself against the metal of life, so to speak, and see, what you're made of. Can I survive out in this harsh reality on my own, and there can be a stubborn determination to do so with Saturn in Aries for some people. Um, when Saturn's in your sign, you can feel more alone in dealing with the toughness of life, and Saturn in Aries can certainly make the toughness of life come into more focus, where it's like, you know what, this didn't feel so difficult before. This didn't feel so limiting or difficult or frustrating before. So it can be things like that coming up. Um, and Saturn pushes us to our absolute limits, and in Aries it will be our absolute limits. So if Saturn is in more of a comfortable sign, where it's less difficult, it may not feel as extreme as it can feel in Aries. So it can go to the extremes of pushing our limits and boundaries. and dealing again of, like in the collective, it could be dealing with authority figures in some way, or there's something to do with people in leadership that are pushing individuals to their limit in some way. So that could be an issue or a theme that comes up. Um, and we also learn about our personal boundaries when Saturn is in our sign, or when Saturn is in, whatever part of our chart. So say Saturn is in Aries for you in your seventh house of relationships. Well, you're going to find that you have to distance yourself and even cut people out of your life that are harming you, or you feel are restricting you to such a level that you feel completely controlled, or you feel completely overwhelmed. So, like I said, it can cut out what is not working for you and what is not good for you. It can help you do that. It can help. Saturn can have us facing some tough lessons and some heavy karmic lessons. So, again, I'm speaking to those that have strong Aries placements, but also, if you've got Cancer, other cardinal placements, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, I'll get to that more in detail in a second. But especially Cancer and Capricorn, because it will be a square aspect that's a bit more of a heavy, difficult energy. But Saturn in Aries has us fight for what it is that we want in our life, for us to be our true self. Aries is one's identity. Also, just on a health aspect, I guess, with Saturn in Aries, Aries rules the head and the brow. So the face, if Saturn in Aries is strong for you, especially like on your ascendant, you could find that you have some issues with psychological stress, mental stress, going through certain things that bring out, it's inattention, overthinking, over worrying, things like that could come up with Saturn in your sign, or Saturn in, if it's your moon, sun, or rising sign. But look, there is a brand new cycle beginning here, and the key to this with Saturn in Aries is to not look for shortcuts. Some people may be tempted to, especially if you've got a lot of fire in your chart, to look for shortcuts or a quick way out. And that's not going to work for you. If you do try to go for a quick way out, or just cut something quickly without thinking it through, you could find yourself going from the fire to the frying pan, so to speak, where it's like, okay, I just escaped that situation, but now I've got to deal with this heavy situation. And, there's no easy way out with Saturn in Aries. It's really doing the hard work to the nth degree, because it's in its full position. Okay. So, I'm just going to check my notes if there was anything that I missed here. Just, trying to cover off some of just the key things here. Um, I probably already said it, but like, it can be where there's more responsibility, more work, and hitting hard times in some way. Like, things could feel harder to achieve, where it's like, you know, you may have had previously to Saturn in Aries, if you've got, just say if you don't, what am I trying to say? If you've got Aries, strong Aries in your chart, or strong cardinal signs in your chart, previous to Saturn going into Aries, you could have felt like you were sort of, maybe you were in a bit of a rut, or you were just kind of cruising in some way, or you just kind of felt like, I need some change, but, I don't really know how to make that change. And then Saturn in Aries starts to come in, and you decide to make a change, but it is going to be better for you if you can think it through, rather than just doing something impulsive. Because if you do something impulsive, um, you're going to find that things could take you onto a path that becomes very difficult if you're too impulsive with your decision. So it's better to slow things down, despite the temptation to go quickly and to make things happen quickly. And there's this strong ambition that can come in with Saturn in Aries, where you just really want to achieve something big in your life, and you just feel like you need to achieve that at all costs. And if you get ahead of yourself, it can be a bit of an ego death. Ego death energy tends to be more Neptune, but that's interesting because we have Saturn and Neptune together in Aries. So Aries people will have to, be cautious with what they're dealing with, really listen to your intuition, slow things down. It's not about quick results. It's not about fast tracking things for the next, till April 2028, basically. All right, so let's go to the next slide, and we'll talk about what, where am I at? There we go. The signs that will be challenged by Saturn in Aries. Okay. So as you can see, I've put the glyphs on the screen here. Aries, obviously, which I just spoke about in depth, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra. So these are the signs that will be challenged in the next couple of years by Saturn in Aries. Uh, like I said, I've already talked about Aries itself, so we'll focus more on these other signs. Cancer, it's going to receive, if you're a Cancer, you're going to receive a square from Saturn in Aries. Okay. So the square is one of the more challenging energies, and it really depends, what placement this is. And if you need a personal reading, you can go to my website. You can book a reading with me. I have different readings available where I could do a full 12-month report, typed report. I can do other types of readings. I can even do like a one question focus. So there's different price tiers there on my website. But if you've got Cancer placements, this can feel harsh for you because as a Cancer, you are sensitive and self protective. And Saturn comes along and pushes your boundaries and also tests you with authority figures coming in and pressuring you, or issues with people in authority like bosses, parents, elders, grandparents. There could be things going on in your personal world, in your family life, or just in your private inner world that feel very harsh in some ways at times. So you have to understand that the degrees in your chart are so important. This is not a blanket thing saying all Cancers are going to cop it for the next 2.5 years. It's not that black and white. That's why it's really important to understand your chart, or to get have a consultation done with a knowledgeable astrologer. They can have a look at when the transits are, impacting you, what dates specifically, when to expect that. So obviously, this year, Saturn only goes to, I think it's 0 or 1 degree of Aries. So, you're only going to feel that in 2025 if you've got very early degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, or Libra as well, and Aries. So, it's going to depend on what your degrees are, as I said. But it is challenging for Cancerians. It is challenging as well. It's a square as well for those with Capricorn placements. The same type of thing. I think it's more around clashes with people in authority, because Capricorn tends to be a more of a natural authoritative sign. And, you might be seeking to go up in some way in your life or progress in some way, but you're going to come up against some kind of limitations that test your willingness to push through the boundaries of limitation and persevere. And Capricorns tend to be very determined. So if it's something that you really want, Capricorn, you will have to push yourself through frustrations and delays and things of that nature, and slow down. So things that you want, Capricorn, can happen over the next couple of years, but it's really imperative that you don't give up. And it doesn't mean that you bulldoze over people either, because Capricorn can tend to do that sometimes. Not all Capricorns, but some. Some more than others. Really depends how evolved you are in your Capricorn degrees and so forth. But if you are patient and methodical and you don't give up and you are really passionate about something, you can achieve a lot over the next couple of years. Same with Cancer, but for Cancer, it might be a bit more difficult because of Saturn's influence. It's just a bit more raw and sensitive there. For Libra, it's an opposition energy, which is not as harsh as the square, but it definitely can still impact you. Saturn, if it's your sun sign in Libra, say, for example, if Saturn's opposing your sun, you can feel like someone's trying to coerce you, or someone's trying to influence you to make a decision that you're feeling unsure if you're ready for. You're feeling unsure if you really want what they're suggesting. It could be someone in authority or someone that you look up to, someone that seems to have more dominance or power in some way. Obviously, think bosses, a parent, or even a dominant partner, say, for example. Libra tends to be more acquiescing and compromising. And if it's your sun, sun in Libra, that's a fall position also. So this could be quite difficult because you're looking at Saturn in a fall sign, and its most difficult expression in Aries, opposing, if you've got a sun in Libra, specifically a sun in Libra, in its fall position. So that can be hard for you. It could be the beginning of a new cycle in your life in some way for Libra, but it can also test you a lot. It could test your commitment. It could test your commitment to what you truly believe and value in yourself. You could get swept up in things, Libra, that may long term be mixed difficulties, but also, there could be a rewarding aspect, but it could be where you really need to stand your ground a little bit and not let someone coerce you to something that just doesn't truly feel right in your heart of hearts. It could manifest in many other ways. It could be, really frustrating dealings with a boss who's very controlling, or worse, it could be some issues with a parent, coming up as well. Difficulties with a parent that's like an aging parent or something, or a parent that has ill health or something like that could be coming up for Libras as well. Um, so that's the cardinal signs. And moving on to the signs that will benefit. So the signs that will benefit more from Saturn in Aries are the other fire signs, Sagittarius and Leo, which will get the trine aspect. Okay. So this is helpful, if you've got like Sagittarius rising sun, midheaven, IC, or, especially the angular parts of the chart. It can be very helpful to you to help stabilize your life and push things along. There still will be hard work, even with the trine. There can still be hard work, but you will see yourself locked into like this flow where you can manage things quite well, and you kind of find yourself in the pocket of like, yep, I'm working, I'm in sync with the things that I need to do. Yes, it's hard work, but I'm managing it. I'm managing to get things done, and I'm persevering. So you'll have this knowing like, okay, I have to persevere here. I can't just give up easily on something that I'm trying to achieve, and it will be easier for you, Sagittarius and Leo, to be locked in. Now, that said, for example, Leo has a Pluto opposition. If you're early born Leo, you have the opposition from Pluto. So that could also, you've got to look at other things that are happening. That's why I always say get a consultation done if you're confused. These videos are more to give you an insight on these changes. But when it comes to your personal chart, you really need to have things analyzed correctly so that you know the dates and what's going on and how long things last, and looking at everything together and where you're receiving benefits and where you're having challenges. So, but anyway, so just in general, Sagittarius and Leo, Saturn in Aries can be helpful to you. Doesn't mean everything's perfect, doesn't mean everything's easy. It just means that you have support from these changes that you're making in your life, and you have some element of momentum. Moving on to Aquarius and Gemini, which also receive positive aspect from transiting Saturn in Aries, which will be a sextile aspect. So not as flowing as the trine aspect with Sagittarius and Leo, but still there's this energy here of being able to um, just apply your energy towards what it is that you want to achieve, and take the steps as you go and see the results come up as you go. You may find it hard to plan ahead. Perhaps you may just have to take the steps, the action. So Aries is about action, Saturn is about committing to a direction and seeing as you go how things are unfolding and continuing to put the action in. That's how I'm seeing that for Gemini and Aquarius. Now, that said, Uranus goes into Gemini this year. That's a separate video that I've done, which is shaking up the lives of Geminis. So again, this year, it's only if you're very early in Gemini, like 0 to 1 degrees. And Uranus is trining for Aquarius. Yes, trining for Aquarius. It's conjunction for Gemini. So there's a lot of positive changes coming through, and well, for Aquarius, and a lot of dramatic changes for Gemini with the Uranus transit in Gemini. Now, having Saturn in the background, offering that sextile up for Gemini, can help you to implement practical changes, but it's not going to be easy. You may be with Uranus in Gemini and Saturn in Aries here. It may be pushing you to go in a new direction, Gemini, that is definitely something that you're feeling compelled to because of Uranus in Gemini, and to liberate you in some way, to bring you freedom. Um, and yet you've got, Saturn in Aries here giving the sextile. So that's going to help you implement some practical changes, with work or with your practical reality. But it is going to require you to apply yourself. It is going to require you to look at things like your mental health, Gemini, and what you need to do for that, because Uranus in Gemini can really shake you up. So I know I'm going on a tangent for Gemini, but I just thought I might as well mention these other factors are important. Pluto is trining for Gemini as well, so that is helping you, but there's a lot going on for Gemini in the next few years. The Uranus transit is way more long term than the Saturn transit. But anyway, so back to the Saturn in Aries for Gemini, it is helping to stabilize you. It's helping you to get real about certain things and putting the efforts in to make things happen. Same for Aquarius. Okay, let's look at the next slide. I don't know what I've got next. I can't remember what I put together here, but let's just see. Oh, yeah, the Saturn and Neptune conjunction. How could I forget? Okay, now the Saturn and Neptune conjunction is very significant in the collective, especially because it really can indicate some heavy things that are going on in the world. Okay. Saturn and Neptune together in Aries is not the easiest of energies. I personally feel that the energy of Neptune in Aries is a better, fresh start. It's like a fresh new start energy. It's something to do with the evolution of souls and some kind of transformation of people's consciousness, which we also can see through Pluto being in Aquarius. I've got a whole separate video on that if you want to look at that. I did that a while back, quite a while back. Saturn in Aries, as you know, it's in fall position. It's not the best position. So to have them together, it's very significant collective change. It's very significant change around the reality of the way that we're living on this earth, and also people's consciousness. And um, Neptune coming out of Pisces is doing away with this illusion that we've been under for a very long time, and it's bringing more of the truth out, and the truth coming out also. Saturn in Aries, I think that's a very exposing energy as well, and it can really push things to the surface of reality where people are seeing more clearly what's actually happening in this physical reality here on Earth with much more clarity. However, there is a very difficult energy involved here with Saturn and Neptune. So, it can definitely be related to Earth changes, like a lot of things going on with the Earth potentially, especially fires or possible things to do with earthquakes and other strange things as well that could be unexpected or disruptive. Okay, so personally, if you've got anything, the signs most affected by the Saturn Neptune conjunction and the time periods where it's most closely conjunct are listed below. August 2025, and I'm using quite a tight orb here, 0 to 3 degrees of Aries. You could open that up and go up to 5 degrees or more, but I think it's really going to affect those maybe 0 to 3, 0 to 4 degrees of Aries, also of Capricorn, Cancer, and Libra, okay, will be affected by the Saturn Neptune conjunction. Early degrees only, early born only. And February to March 2026 is when it's exact in the sky again, the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune. So this is going to feel heavy for those that have, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to feel heavy for those that have early degrees, 0 to 3, 0 to 4, 5 degrees of Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra, but especially Aries. It's going to be something where your life is really pushed into a completely new direction, as if the forces of the universe are pushing you, and you could be listening to your intuition, and hopefully you are, and you're acting on that based on what your gut feeling is really showing you, and your knowing and things that have been whispering in your consciousness for a while now. There is a new path opening up, and you may be called to take on a new level of responsibility with Saturn in Aries and do something that feels very self-sacrificing with Neptune in Aries. Okay. And those together can feel like a combination of compassion, self-sacrifice, taking action to help others or another person. But Saturn in Aries is also the end of a long cycle. Okay. So those signs that I mentioned that have those very early degrees or early born are going to be going through something very unique here with Saturn and Neptune impacting your chart. And, it's a once in a lifetime experience with Saturn and Neptune conjunct. And whatever changes you're going through will require your focus, your help in the, directed towards others. And, this element, like I said, of helping, possibly even an element of heroism, of self-sacrifice for some people, not everybody, that is affected by these degrees. Um, But, you could be helping someone close to you with their health. You could be helping someone go through something very difficult and it's very hard on you. Maybe you're a carer for somebody and you have to put a lot of energy into that and you're trying to work and you're trying to balance your own responsibilities and you have these other things with this other person that's demanding something and you just feel so called to help because they don't have anyone else, say for example. It could be something like that. Or it can be where for early degree Aries people in particular, you feel like, you are changing your life in a big way and you feel a bit lost with Neptune and Aries in some way. But with Neptune being in Aries, if you listen to your knowing of where you're supposed to go next and just trust the steps as you go, you will find that a new path is there for you. It is opening up. It's meant to be. So let's see what's next. I think that was the whole thing. Pretty sure. Yep. So that's the end of the video, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about today. But I have got the extended video, which is available on my Patreon. Click the link below to go to that. Like I said, you can join for $6.99 per month if you'd like to join me there. I do much more content than I do on YouTube there. I do the new moon, full moons for all signs every month, and I do pick a card readings, extra stuff. Or you can just unlock this video and pay a one-off payment to access it if you're interested. I will go through every sign for your sun, moon, and rising. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.